Thanks for checking out Basically Biblical. So we have a little bit of a different video today. We've done some stuff like this before. We're going to be watching something and then kind of reacting to it, breaking it down. We've done some stuff from this channel before. It is Jubilee. Now, this one's a little bit different than the stuff that we have gone through before. Before, they've taken different Christians and just kind of broken down, see where they line up, do they agree on everything, all this other stuff. This one is going to be different because this one, the title is, I am a gay pastor, ask me anything. So, this individual, I've seen him on, I think it may have been some other of their content. I don't know if it's anything we've touched on already, but he is a pastor, and he is a professing homosexual. He's in a same-sex relationship, and basically he sits and he's behind a curtain where people can come and they'll sit next to him, but they can't see each other, and they just ask him questions and he responds to them. So we're going to go through that and see what he says to some of these questions, and I will give you a conservative Christian. And so this term, this pastor is what I would call a progressive Christian. I'm pretty sure he would be okay with that title. And this is not the same thing as what you would consider like conservative or progressive when it comes to politics, although there is some overlap. It seems that there's becoming more and more overlap, but it's not a direct correlation or a direct connection. But we are going to be looking through, he is what I would consider a progressive Christian. And so as a conservative, or what I would also consider orthodox Christian, I will be commenting on what he says, and we'll see if there's any questions that he answers that I agree with. I have not watched this video yet. I have seen, as I was scrolling through it, YouTube will do like the short little clip, and so I've seen a little bit heading into it, the first few seconds. But we'll see if there's anything here that we agree with. And yeah, we'll jump straight into it. So again, this is Jubilee, and the video, I'll try to remember to link the video in the description, but the video is, I'm a gay pastor, ask me anything.
If you were alone in a room with a gay pastor, what would you ask?
Do you view yourself as an openly gay pastor as a political statement?
What are your thoughts on conversion therapy?
Does it really say in the Bible that being gay is a sin?
So the first thing is we have to look at is that.
Hi,
So you can see, I'm not going to pull it back, but there's a curtain in between them so they can't see each other. They're able to ask the questions, and I think they have the option. I've watched some of these before, and I think at the end they give them the option if they want to see each other or not, but I don't know if we'll watch through that whole thing. But it's not too long of a video, so we should be able to get through most of it.
I'm Haridas, and I have some questions for you today.
Awesome, nice to meet you, Haridas. My name is Pastor Kurt.
My first question is, what is your religion?
I am a progressive Pentecostal, which would be a
Okay, so yeah, he would call himself progressive.
Christian.
Is being gay ever an issue for you? Like, does that affect you being a pastor in any way?
In some instances, it does. I get uninvited to stuff, and I'm the black sheep of some spaces. You know, something happened that was really funny. One of my friends invited me to come and preach at his church. Some of the members from that congregation wanted to hear me again, and so they came to my church. I wanted to thank God for my boyfriend being there, and I saw every person that came from that congregation, they got up and exited stage right.
Oh, wow.
I get a lot.
So I'm kind of surprised to hear that, but I think it's a good thing. And honestly, I don't think it should be that shocking, and it may not be for him. I'm not sure what his name is. I think I said at the beginning, but I think most individuals that I know that are in line with this, they say basically that it's not a shock to them that Christians, a lot of Christians, there are a lot of people that aren't like this though, a lot of Christians that aren't like this, but they are not surprised when they see that a lot of people who claim to be Christian completely shut this out. Like he was talking about, these people heard him speak, they liked it, they wanted to hear him speak again. And so while he was preaching at his church, he thanked God for his boyfriend being in attendance, and these people from this other congregation got up and walked out. I don't think that should be a particularly a shock to anybody. I'm going to say I don't think it was probably a shock to him, but maybe it was. But from what I've seen, a lot of people, they're not really surprised by this because it's kind of expected, because the church's stance has been this way on it for all of church history, like with the exception of like the last 30 seconds. So, yeah.
A lot of hate mail that I'm going to hell and I'm teaching false doctrine. In the beginning of my ministry.
So with that, I don't remember exactly the question that she asked him, but he made the comment that he gets a lot of hate mail, stuff saying that he's going to hell and he's teaching false doctrine. Now, we want to make sure as Christians we are handling these things in the best way possible. We want to make sure that we are handling these things as Jesus would do. Now, with that being said, I don't think people should send someone like this pastor or anyone else. I don't think that they should send them hate mail. But I would also say that just if someone is saying something to him, saying that what he is teaching is wrong, that's not hate mail. That would just be someone trying to correct. Just like I would assume that if he heard someone preaching, if he walked in and I was preaching at a church and I was saying the opposite, that homosexuality is a sin, then I would assume he would try to tell me I'm wrong. Maybe he would. Maybe he has more of a, whatever you believe, truth is relative type view. But just someone telling you that you're wrong, especially when they can go back to Scripture and show that you're wrong, that's not hate mail. Now, if he is getting hate mail, especially from Christians, that shouldn't be happening. People shouldn't be threatening him. People shouldn't be treating him poorly because of his view or his stance or anything like that. But calling him out, saying that what he's teaching is wrong, is not problematic, especially doing so in love. He is someone that's supposed to be representing Christ. He's supposed to be representing Christians. And so if he's doing that incorrectly, especially in a way that he is holding people's hands, telling them that he is leading them to heaven when really he is walking them straight to hell, that is a problem, and that needs to be addressed. So,
that hurt me. On the flip side, when a young person comes to you and they're thinking about committing suicide, then who's gonna hold them up and tell them, you know what, you don't have to give up and you don't have to allow people to dictate your path. You have the power to dictate your own path.
I definitely resonate with that a lot.
Have you ever...
So this is where my pastor is actually just talking about this. I think it was this last Sunday morning. He made the comment that not necessarily about the wanting to kill themselves, but trying to explain to them that, okay, yeah, maybe you struggle with this, or this is a temptation that you have, or this is a desire that you have. You don't give into it. And sometimes that's going to look harder than others. And there's people that have burdens to bear that would be incredibly hard to handle. I can honestly say I don't know how I would handle that. I don't know. That's a really, really tough thing. I do think that there are individuals that, if they want to do what the Bible says, then they will need to spend their entire lives completely alone, celibate. I'll say alone, but not really alone. They have people around them. They'll have close friendships, things like that. But if they want to do what God has called them to do, they can never enter into that kind of relationship that they want. I have seen some things, and we've talked about this before, where there's maybe a man that has those feelings, is same-sex attracted, and this individual was not a Christian, so it was not a matter of sin or God or anything like that, but they wanted a family the natural way. They wanted to have a spouse and have their own biological kids that is actually part them, part their spouse. And this individual had a female friend that he was really, really close with, that I believe, I don't know if she had some kind of a desire for him or what the exact situation was, but they decided that they wanted to start a family together. And so even though that's not what his attraction was, he married this lady. They're faithful to each other. They have kids. That's because he wanted that family. And so he made that sacrifice. And that can be a route. And what I saw, people were really talking badly of this, about how that's a horrible decision. And I don't see that way. Sacrifice is a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. Especially once you start getting into, that's a natural part of being a parent, of being a spouse, especially going into being a husband and a father. That is part of it. Our example is Christ, and what he did was sacrifice for us. It had no benefit whatsoever to him. It was all the benefit was for us. We didn't deserve it, and he still did it. So sacrifice is good. And there may be people that have to do that if they want to live a godly life.
Had to hide yourself to the people of your church?
I don't think that I hid my sexuality or hid who I am, but I did use a lot of discretion so that I wouldn't offend people. It took me until 26 to actually...
I think this is... I'll let him finish.
Authentically be myself. I went through this journey of dating girls and dating guys. I would go out with my girlfriend because I wanted everybody in the church to love me and to like me, and then I would go home and cuddle with my boyfriend after. It wasn't until I had an aha moment, I just said basically to hell with people, and I understand that God created me and he built...
I'm getting to that in a second. So this idea of hiding who he was, I think that it does not do anybody any good to not be forthcoming with this if you are a church or a pastor or a member of a church. If you are a church and you want to say that there's nothing wrong with this and you're going to accept it or even celebrate it, then that's your decision, but you need to be forthcoming with it. And this is one of the biggest problems I've had with the Andy Stanley stuff here recently. First of all, it's problematic, the stance that he has, but the fact that he tried so hard to avoid answering the question. He tried so hard to not actually say one way or another what his stance was on the topic. That doesn't do anybody any good. You be clear about it so people know, like, hey, this isn't the place for me, or hey, I can stay here. Either way, you need to make a definitive statement and not be wishy-washy. That said, it does not do anybody any good.
Helped me to be the person that I am, and nobody can be Kurt but Kurt.
I mean,
Okay, he said that God made him to be the person that he is, talking about God created him with those desires, and I would say that's not the case. God created him, yes, but God does not tempt. It says very clearly in the Bible, God does not tempt us with sin. If God does not tempt us with sin, this is sin. So this would not be God that is doing this. This is a result of living in a fallen world. This is a result of the sin that is in our world, the temptation that is there, of living in a fallen state. That's not from God.
I'm also gay.
Yay!
Yay! And it definitely took me a bit longer than I would have liked to have figured it out.
Do you view yourself as an openly gay pastor as a political statement?
No. Me being a pastor just means that I'm passionate about people and that God has called me and given me a unique identifier to be able to love and to appreciate and to speak life into people.
Does it really?
No, I'd say being a pastor means that you're called to guard your flock. You are to, so with my pastor at my church, I would say that he is responsible for making sure that stuff that is brought into the church is good, that people that are at the church are taken care of, spiritually, mentally, physically, any way that he can. That is his responsibility. I would say part of that is making sure that people are not allowed to take the stage or be behind the pulpit that are not properly vetted, that are going to, if someone's going to preach something that is not in the Bible, or they're just contrary to the Bible, it's his responsibility to make sure that they don't get that microphone. Or if they do, I would fully expect, and I wouldn't have any problem seeing this if, let's say, someone wasn't actually, they were maybe vetted beforehand, but this for whatever reason didn't come up, and they started saying something like this on, let's say it was a live on a Sunday morning service. I would fully expect, and I have no problem seeing this, that my pastor would actually get up and take the mic from them and stop it there. And that's because he would see that that is his responsibility to make sure that that happens. So as far as that meaning that it's his job to just love people in a different way, that's not, I don't think that is accurate. I'd be interested to see his response here. This is the next question you see at the bottom here. Is being gay a sin? So,
Really say in the Bible that being gay is a sin?
Biblical text doesn't introduce the word homosexuality until the 1900s. And so then you have to go back and you have to look at the original manuscript, which frames it from a different perspective. So it talks about giving the natural affection of a man to a woman or a woman to a man. Well, what is your natural affection? Is your natural affection to a man or is your natural affection to a woman? We are divinely everything that God wants us to be.
Okay. That is patently false. Let me see. Let's open up. Okay, we are on Blue Letter Bible. And this is going to be a bonus. We're going to learn how to actually get an exegeted passage. So, the first thing that he said is that the word homosexuality didn't appear in the Bible until the 1900s. That is not correct. The word actually appears in the Bible for the first time in like the 1500s. I think it's 1538. And the reason I know that is because that is the date that the King James translation was commissioned, and that was the first English translation. So, that is when it first appears in the Bible. Now, the reason it doesn't appear in the originals is what he said, because the originals weren't in English. So, let's go look at the originals. In the passage that he brought up, he's talking about natural relations between a man and a woman. I believe that is Romans, I think 6. So, Blue Letter Bible is an amazing tool. It is one of the few that I use anytime I try to get in and do any type of in-depth study. Blue Letter Bible is one that I use frequently. Okay, so we're in Romans 1:26. Okay, and here we're looking at the ESV translation. So, here, for this reason, God gave them up to dishonorable passions, for their women exchanged natural relations for those that are contrary to nature. And men likewise give up natural relations with women and were consumed with passion for one another, men committing shameless acts with men and receiving in themselves the due penalty for their error. So, he is, first of all, absolutely butchering this passage. Second of all, he is taking it completely out of context, even after the butchering of it. It's not saying that just whatever your natural inclination is that you are allowed to go with it, or that that's what God gave you, or that it's okay. It's saying here, in Romans, Paul is writing this to the church that is in Rome, and Paul is saying, we can go up here a little bit, God's wrath on unrighteousness. So this is very clearly saying this is not good, this is bad, this is something that is not approved of by God. So let's go into a little bit more of the specific word he said. So the comment that homosexuality doesn't appear in the Bible. I actually know this one off the top of my head because we just recently, I talked about this. This is what I was thinking of the 6. 1 Corinthians 6, verses 9 through 11. So, and this is why I will usually use Blue Letter Bible, because especially when you're doing stuff like this, it works really, really well if you want to dig in and study. So you can see here it has it broken up. Each verse is singled out on its own. And the reason they do that is so, here, this word, homosexuality, right there. So what is the original word? Because obviously, this is the New Testament. So it was written in Greek. So what was the original word used there? So we can go to this specific verse, hit Tools, and it gives us a breakdown. We can see the English word here, or what it's translated to in English, and then what the original word was. So these will, like I said, these will all be Greek. Scroll down. So here, the word homosexuals is the Greek word arsenokoitos. I believe is how you pronounce it. This is a really cool feature too. You can click here and it'll actually say it.
Strong's G 733, arsenokoites. Arsenokoites.
Okay, so my Greek accent is off a little bit. But you can hear it. If we want to see more on the word, we can click here. That's G733. That is what this word is. This is taking you to, this is a concordance, and it will show you what the definition of the word is, different places that it appears, how it's translated in different places. So we can see here, this word, arsenokoitos, it is a masculine noun. It appears 2 times in the KJV, and it translates to an abuser of oneself with mankind, and it means to defile oneself with mankind. Outline of biblical usage. One who lies with a male as with a female. Sodomite, homosexual. Go down. We can see Strong's definition here. Sodomite, abuser, that defiles self with mankind. This Greek lexicon. One who lies with a male as with a female. And then we can see the different places that it appears. So it appears 1 Corinthians 6:9, and then it also tells us that it is here in 1 Timothy 1:10. And we can actually scroll down. So you can see it if you hover over. It gives you the passage too, but it's in KJV. If you like the KJV, that's fine. I don't have any issues with the KJV. Even me growing up in church, sometimes it's very hard to follow. But if you scroll down, it should pull it up in the translation you already had up. So here, 1 Timothy 1:10, the sexually immoral, men who practice homosexuality, enslavers, liars, perjurers, and whatever else is contrary to sound doctrine. So if we go there, 1:10. So here, that was that passage. So what is the context here? It's a warning against false teachers. And Paul is, again, this is Paul writing. He is writing a letter to Timothy. And we'll go back to verse 8. Now we know that the law is good if one uses it lawfully. Understanding this, that the law is not laid down for the just, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and sinners, for the unholy and profane, for those who strike their fathers and mothers, for murderers, the sexually immoral, men who practice homosexuality, enslavers, liars, perjurers. So, if we do what he says, we go back to the original, we can see what he is saying is just flat out not true. It's just not. So I mean, we did what he said. What he's saying is just false. The Bible is clear on this. It is not up for debate. The teaching here is clear. Now, there are some individuals who would agree that this is what Paul says, but they would go a step further, and this is where I think Brandon Robertson is. This is the camp that he is in, where he says, yes, this is what Paul was saying, but Paul was incorrect. And so that you open up the door to, you're just picking and choosing what you want to listen to, what you want to follow, and that opens up all kinds of other problems. So we'll jump back into this. But yeah, it's pretty clear. The Bible teaches on this. It is not okay. It is condemned. It is sin. There's really no way around it.
I think that's awesome. I've never heard that part of it before.
What are your thoughts on conversion therapy?
I think that's the stupidest thing that somebody could ever do, and I hope that whoever does that, I hope that they find a guiding light. People can't be converted from who they authentically are. There's something that was called Exodus. They would learn the Bible and they would stay there and pray and think that that would change their situation, but they found out that they were sneaking in each other's rooms like late at night, so it didn't work.
Do you believe that?
So that conversion therapy, and I heard this come up a lot when I think it was when Mike Pence was VP. I think instantly a lot of people think conversion therapy is like they electric shock you to make you not want something anymore. A lot of times what they're talking about is you're going to see a Christian therapist or a Christian counselor, someone who would agree that this is wrong, and so they're going to talk you through it, why it's wrong, but also practical ways to help you deal with this, because they know that it's wrong, they know that it's sin, and they want to try to help you get to a point where you can maybe control it better on your own and deal with those desires that are sinful. I will say, from what I've seen from him, he is polite. He is kind. I could see him being willing to sit down and have a conversation, even knowing he disagrees. And I might be wrong. I don't know him, but I could see myself sitting having a conversation with him, and it not getting heated, just talking through, hey, this is why I believe this, and this is why I believe this, and back and forth. Not saying that either one of us would change our mind. I think it's actually very strong probability that neither one of us would, even at all. I know I'm not going to because I've looked at this issue inside and out. But I think he would be, from what I've seen, I think that he would be willing to sit down and have a conversation. He's civil when he has discourse with people, or even like there, he was talking about that, and he wasn't mean or hateful or targeted. He even said, he would pray that they would find guidance away from that. And I have to, that's admirable. That's a quality that is not seen enough, especially around issues like this, heated debate issues. So that is a very, very good quality, I think.
You will go to hell?
Oh, heck, Jack, I'm not going to hell. I think that God is very heart-intended, and so he looks at our heart. I don't think in him there's neither male nor female.
I definitely think that God looks at your soul and not at who you choose to love.
How does it make you feel?
It's not about what you do. It's not about your intentions. It's not about... None of us are good enough. Nobody is good enough. No one can be good enough. If you've broken one part of the law, then you are guilty of the entire law. Everything. You stand condemned in front of a good, just, perfect God. And the only way to get out of that is to accept the punishment that was already dealt out to Jesus on your behalf. It's already been done. The question is whether or not you're going to accept it or not. Now, this is another issue too. I think that the idea that God is sending people to hell. God's not sending people to hell. You have your lifetime to decide whether you want to be with God or apart from God. Once Judgment Day gets here, God is simply giving people what they ask for. He is letting people have what they decided they wanted. Now, why is hell going to be so bad? It's because it's complete removal from God. No measure of him or his presence or anything is there with you. And it is going to be, because even here on earth there's a measure of God, there's a measure of his presence, of grace here, but it's going to be beyond anything that I think anyone can imagine. Absolute, just terror, and it's not like a physical pain or anything like that either. It's hard to describe, but that is what hell is. It's not God saying, "Oh, hey, you were good, so you go to heaven. You were bad, so you go to hell." Nobody's good. Everyone deserves to go to hell. It's just a matter of whether or not you accept Jesus and his work on the cross.
Feel when more conservative pastors spread hate about the LGBTQ community and even spread threats.
It hurts my feelings that people operate in hate, especially when we serve a God that loves. John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world."
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever would believe in him would not perish and would have eternal life. So not everyone is going to experience that. There are stipulations, and it's not just I believe Jesus is real. James said even the demons believe. So there's something beyond that. We also see in James that, in James we see that faith without works is dead. We know that we're saved by grace through faith, and so if we're not seeing fruit, if we're not seeing that we are trying to live a right life, not that we are going to, no one's going to be perfect, even after you have that kind of Jesus moment, you're going to sin, you're going to slip up, you're going to do things wrong. Everybody does every single day. Even after that, you're going to mess up. But if you're not actively trying to, then I would say that you don't have faith. Because James says clearly, faith without works is dead. Or you have faith that's dead. And dead faith can't save you. So there are so many issues in the progressive Christian movement that are just, it is garbage theology that does not make any sense. You're cherry picking what you want, and it's sad. It is very sad. My heart hurts for people that are in that, even more so because I think there are a lot of people that are genuinely believing that they're not doing anything wrong because they've been told that it's fine. And I think there are a lot of people that are going to be very, very surprised when it comes to Judgment Day, thinking that they are fine, and they're not. And that grieves me deeply.
People teach hate instead of love. It makes me, one, question their ability to really hear from God or to speak for God.
Was there ever a time?
So, teaching hate instead of love, if we were sitting down, I would want to ask him, what specifically is he saying? Because I feel like he would say that what I'm speaking here is hate, but it's not hate. It's just saying that you're wrong and trying to provide correction. Let's look at the example, and I'm not trying to bring up this example as okay, let's do a different example because I see that going incorrectly. So I'll throw out a good friend of mine. His name is Andreas. Let's say if I knew he was doing something wrong, if I knew that he was, I'll throw this out there because I know there's no way this would ever happen. If he is stepping out on a spouse, then I would tell him that's wrong. You should not be doing this. I would try to provide correction and clarity and bring him back to where he should be as a Christian. That's not hate, that's love, because I love him, I care about him, I want him to be where he needs to be, and so I'm willing to hurt his feelings and say things that are going to make him sad or upset, or that's going to cut away, and it's not just going to be nice and good and touchy-feely and give you all the warm fuzzies. I'm going to say things that are going to hurt his feelings because I want him to have the greater good, not just the temporary pat on the back right now. So that the whole idea of not preaching love and preaching hate and stuff, it's a false idea that love only speaks positive. It is one of the most false ideas ever. He also said, that God is love, and I'll always go back to this. It's a very, very good line by I can't remember his name. He spoke at Oxford about kind of some of the same issue. He said that it had been said multiple times today that God is love, and he said, yes, God is love, but he gets to define the term, not us. And we have a very jacked up view of what love is, especially, I would say, in Western culture. And we are pushing our ideas onto God when we need to be taking what God has said and putting it into us.
So how does one take religion and come to terms with themselves? Like, this is that love you're talking about. How do we find our own truth?
The first misconception.
The first misconception is that you have your own truth. We've talked about this recently too. There is no my truth, your truth, his truth, her truth. There is absolute truth, and then there are opinions. And sometimes our opinions can be correct. Sometimes our opinions can be correctly based on truth. And sometimes our opinions can be incredibly false and wrong. And big problem, I think, with our society that we live in today is that this idea that there is no absolute truth. There is no thing that is reaches past what we are able to feel that is always true all the time. There is absolute truth all over the place. And if your opinion is different than the absolute truth, then your opinion is wrong.
Is that people want to be religious. God's desire is to be relational with us. If we go back to...
Again, I brought this one up recently too. This is, I think, a problem with the idea that Christianity is not a religion, it's a relationship. Christianity is a religion. Now, it is a religion in which you have a relationship with God, but it is a religion. The idea that it's just a relationship, there's no religion aspect of it, takes away the idea that it is a fully good and powerful and deserving God that we are in that relationship with. We are not equals in any sense of the word, not even close. So I've talked about it before, so I won't go into a lot of in-depth conversation on that. But I think this is a problem, and I've seen this my entire life in the charismatic Pentecostal movement. People talking about this. It's not a religion, it's not a religion, it's a relationship. That's not true. It is a religion. It is a religion in which you have a relationship, but it is a religion.
Genesis, and we look in the garden with Adam and Eve, God was building relationship with them. He wasn't building religion with them.
What advice would you give to a gay person who is fearful of going to church?
You can Google and find churches that are inclusive and accepting.
So, I would say nobody should be fearful of going to church. And this is where I think our society has gotten another aspect of this wrong, that because someone disagrees with you, that it is equal to violence. The idea that words are violence. Words are not violence. And so I think getting rid of that idea gets rid of a lot of this being fearful to go to a church. But I will say that I would see some churches where I would legitimately see someone being fearful to attend if they are living a lifestyle like this, or any other number of issues. And even if those people are in the wrong, I would say that it's wrong for the church to be making them feel fearful for being there. Now, the correct stance of the church is to be open and accepting of anybody coming to the church, but also making sure that you are speaking truth, and whatever you're preaching is grounded in the Word. I've used my pastor as an example here, or example before already, and I'll use it here too. I think if anybody were to ask if they were welcome at our church, our pastor, I have no doubt whatsoever he would say yes. Everyone is welcome. He also is not going to hold back on speaking truth. If there is a same-sex couple in the church and he knows they are there, and he feels God leading him to speak on that, he is going to speak on it. No hesitation, no second thoughts, none of it. And that's how we should be as a church. Everyone is welcome to come. We do want to treat people with love and respect, but part of treating them with love is being honest, even when it hurts them, even when it's something they don't want to hear, but they need to hear.
And then after you do that, you have to find a church that meets your specific needs. I think one of the downfalls with going to just any church is that some churches are tolerant, but they're not celebratory. A church that tolerates people is a church where you won't see anybody that looks like you in the leadership.
So, yeah, I'm not surprised. There really wasn't a whole lot we agreed on. There are some things, but I think they're very, very basic where we did agree. But like I said, I do admire his seemingly willingness to have conversations, and even when it comes to people that he disagrees with, who some of which probably do not handle this right. He still comes across in a way that I think more Christians should come across, where it is treating them with civility, with respect, and yeah, it's something that more Christians need to do. And that is one aspect I do feel like he gets right. From what I've seen him in a couple things. There's this. I think I've seen him in another Jubilee video. And I think I've seen him in something else too. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head. But I have seen him in a couple things. And so from what I've seen, I do think that is something that he gets right. So I'll give him his props for that.